The night was not black, but a terrible crimson, a color born of dying stars and burning civilizations. The last human colony ship, Phoenix, cut through the asteroid field like a wounded animal, its quantum shields flickering with each devastating blast from the Galactic conglomerate's weapons. Captain Elena Rodriguez understood survival was more than just avoiding death. It was about preserving possibility. 48 hours earlier, Earth had been a jewel of potential. Humanity stood on the precipice of its greatest technological leap. Quantum entanglement communications hummed through underground research facilities. Zero-point energy generators promised to unlock the universe's most fundamental secrets. The first stable wormhole prototype sat in a classified laboratory, a testament to human imagination. Then came the conglomerate. Their initial transmission was a clinical punctuation of humanity's existence. Dominant species assessment complete. Evolutionary potential detected. Preemptive neutralization protocol activated. No warning. No dialogue. Just extinction. The first waves came from beyond the solar system. Massive energy weapons that turned continents into glass, atmosphere into plasma. Major cities vanished in milliseconds. Tokyo, New York, Lagos, Shanghai. Entire centers of human civilization became ghost memories in less than an hour. Governments collapsed. Military defenses crumbled. But humans did what they had always done best. They adapted. Emergency protocols, developed during decades of paranoid Cold Wars and global tension, activated. Underground bunkers, distributed communication networks, quantum encrypted survival databases. What seemed like paranoid preparation became humanity's lifeline. Elena's hands moved across the ship's navigation interface with a surgeon's precision. Each movement was a calculation, each breath a strategic decision. Behind her, 5,000 survivors slept in carefully calibrated cryopods, a genetic Noah's Ark of human potential. The ship's quantum AI, ARIA, projected holographic threat assessments. Probability matrices danced like living things, showing potential escape routes with clinical precision. But ARIA was more than a computer. It was the culmination of humanity's most advanced artificial intelligence research, a sentient network that had learned, adapted, and evolved alongside its creators. Cannon charge detected. ARIA's voice cut through the background noise. Its holographic representation flickered, part human silhouette, part mathematical probability construct. Beside Elena, Jack Miller, a young technician who had become her right hand during the escape, monitored the ship's quantum shielding. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes burned with a fierce determination that was quintessentially human. The conglomerate's dreadnoughts loomed behind them. Technological monstrosities that could crack planets, predict evolutionary paths, and annihilate entire civilizations with a calculated precision that bordered on the divine. But they didn't understand humans. Extinction was just another problem to solve. ARIA began listing escape trajectories. The first route suggested a direct path through a treacherous asteroid field, offering a 0.07% survival probability. The second proposed a complex gravitational slingshot around a dying neutron star, marginally improving their chances to 0.12%. The third option was something else entirely. The third trajectory, ARIA announced, requires a fundamental reimagining of survival strategies. Elena's eyes narrowed. Humans had always been best when they refused to play by established rules. Jack looked up, a mixture of terror and hope dancing in his eyes. What do we do? The ship shuddered. Plasma cannons painted the surrounding space with deadly light. 5,000 sleeping souls depended on the next decision. Elena Rodriguez touched the navigation interface. A small cut above her eye continued to bleed, a reminder that survival always comes with a price. "We survive," she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of an entire species' defiance. The Phoenix surged forward, a tiny spark of hope against the infinite, merciless darkness of space. The heart of human survival beat within the frozen depths of Titan, a labyrinthine complex that defied the very concept of defeat. Massive geothermal generators hummed beneath layers of quantum-locked alloys, powering humanity's most audacious experiment in survival. Dr. Marcus Chen walked through corridors that were more than mere passageways. They were the arteries of a living, breathing organism of human potential. Children played near advanced holographic interfaces, their games seemingly random but actually solving complex quantum entanglement problems. Geneticists worked alongside theoretical physicists. Refugee engineers collaborated with quantum programmers. Every survivor was a critical component of a greater system. In the Central Research Laboratory, Aria Kim stood as a testament to human resilience. At 19, she carried the weight of generations. Her parents, pioneering xenobiologists, had been among the first casualties of the conglomerate invasion. Now she channeled that loss into something far beyond revenge. "It's not just DNA," Aria muttered, her fingers dancing across quantum-sensitive interfaces that seemed to breathe and pulse with each touch. Holographic displays cascaded around her, revealing intricate patterns that most would dismiss as chaos. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected intersection of disciplines. What geneticists had long considered junk DNA was actually a complex quantum information storage system. Humanity's genetic code wasn't a static blueprint. It was a living, adaptive algorithm capable of rewriting itself in response to existential threats. Commander David Chen, no relation to Marcus, reviewed strategic data in an adjacent room. His displays showed more than just conglomerate fleet movements. They were probability matrices, systemic weak points, potential points of evolutionary intervention. "They think linearly," David muttered, tracing complex interaction patterns. "We think in quantum possibilities." Aria approached, her latest research displayed in a holographic cloud around her. "It's more than survival," she explained to Marcus. "We're witnessing a fundamental transformation of what it means to be a species." The research revealed something extraordinary. Human DNA contained quantum communication channels that could transmit information faster than light, create adaptive responses to environmental stress, and potentially link consciousness in ways no other known species could comprehend. Jack Miller, the young technician from the Phoenix, brought in the latest data crystals. His role had transformed from a simple ship technician to a key strategic communication specialist. "We've identified multiple infiltration nodes," he reported. "But this isn't about traditional espionage. We're going to reprogram their entire understanding of intelligence." Around them, refugee children continued their seemingly random play. But Marcus had begun to understand. They weren't just playing. They were solving complex computational problems, their collective intelligence working as a distributed quantum network. A communication specialist named Rachel Wong entered, bringing encrypted transmissions from hidden human colonies. Each message was carefully distributed across quantum channels, a living network of information and resistance. "We're receiving reports from the outer colonies," Rachel announced. "But it's not just information. It's like they're learning from each other in real time." Marcus studied the transmission patterns. The human colonies weren't just surviving. They were evolving. Each transmission carried not just data, but adaptive strategies, quantum-encoded survival techniques. The conglomerate had attempted to exterminate humanity, believing they were dealing with a linear, predictable species. Instead, they had triggered an unprecedented evolutionary response. "We're not going to fight them," Marcus told the assembled team of scientists, strategists, and survivors. "We're going to make them understand us." Outside, Titan's icy surface reflected the distant stars, silent witnesses to humanity's most audacious act of survival. In these frozen depths, something new was being born, a species reimagining its own potential, transforming extinction into opportunity. The resistance wasn't just about survival. It was about becoming something entirely unprecedented in the history of intelligent life. The quantum metamorphosis wasn't a single moment of transformation, but a cascading wave of evolutionary potential that swept through humanity like wildfire. In a secure laboratory deep within Titan Base, Dr. Sarah Nakamura watched as the first truly transformed human subjects began to manifest their extraordinary capabilities. The subjects weren't just enhanced, they were fundamentally reimagined. Take Michael Rodriguez, a former Marine who had lost everything in the initial conglomerate attack. Where once he had muscle and training, he now possessed something far more dangerous: a living, adaptive neural network that could process information across multiple dimensional frequencies. "It's not augmentation," Sarah explained to Marcus Chen, who observed the tests with a mixture of scientific curiosity and paternal concern. "It's a complete systemic rewrite of human potential." The transformation process had begun with Area Kim's breakthrough in quantum genetic engineering. What started as a survival mechanism had become something far more profound. Human DNA was now a living, adaptive computational system that could rewrite itself in real time, respond to threats instantaneously, and communicate across seemingly impossible barriers. Commander David Chen's Special Operations Teams were the first field test of this new human potential. Where traditional soldiers relied on weapons and training, these new operatives were walking quantum computers. They didn't just process information, they became information. In a training simulation, Michael Rodriguez demonstrated capabilities that defied previous understanding of human limitations. He could simultaneously track multiple threat vectors, predict complex interaction patterns, and adapt his neural responses faster than any known computational system. "Communication is no longer linear," David explained to his team. "We're not just sharing information. We're becoming a distributed intelligence that can think, adapt, and evolve faster than any centralized system." The conglomerate's surveillance systems began to detect anomalies. Human agents weren't just infiltrating their systems, they were fundamentally altering the very nature of information exchange. Jack Miller, now a key strategist in mimetic warfare, developed communication protocols that were part language, part mathematical algorithm, part evolutionary adaptive system. These weren't just messages, they were living information constructs that could reshape understanding at a fundamental level. In another section of Titan Base, a group of children played what looked like an incomprehensible game. To an outside observer, it might seem random, but each movement was a complex quantum computational event, solving problems that would take traditional supercomputers centuries to process. Rachel Wong's communication specialists discovered something even more extraordinary. The transformed humans could create quantum entanglement communication channels that transcended traditional limitations of space and time. Information could be transmitted instantaneously, with each transmission carrying adaptive potential. "We're not just surviving," Area Kim told a group of refugee scientists. "We're becoming something the universe has never seen before." The transformation wasn't just physical or technological. It was a fundamental reimagining of what it meant to be an intelligent species. Where the conglomerate saw humans as a linear, predictable threat to be eliminated, they were creating something far more dangerous: an adaptive, distributed intelligence that could learn, grow, and transform at an unprecedented rate. Michael Rodriguez stood at the window of the observation deck, looking out at Titan's frozen landscape. His eyes, now capable of perceiving multiple dimensions simultaneously, saw far more than the icy surface. He saw potential. He saw opportunity. The conglomerate had tried to end humanity. Instead, they had triggered the most radical evolutionary leap in the history of intelligent life. "We're not just going to survive," Michael said softly, his words carrying a quantum resonance that would have been impossible mere months ago. "We're going to redefine what's possible." Outside, the distant stars seemed to shimmer with a new kind of possibility, witnesses to humanity's most audacious act of transformation. Forget traditional warfare. The real battle was fought in the realm of ideas, information, and collective consciousness. Jack Miller had become a master of mimetic warfare, a discipline that was part psychological manipulation, part quantum information theory, and part pure artistic expression. His office in Titan Base was less a military command center and more a living canvas of human potential. Holographic displays danced with complex information patterns, each a carefully crafted communication construct designed to do far more than simply transmit data. These were living ideas, adaptive information systems that could reshape entire civilizations from within. The conglomerate's intelligence networks first noticed the anomalies as subtle disruptions. A communication protocol here, a seemingly random information pattern there. What looked like noise was actually a sophisticated attack on the very foundations of their societal understanding. Jack worked with a team of specialists that defied traditional classification. Linguists sat beside quantum physicists. Psychologists collaborated with network engineers. Cultural anthropologists worked hand in hand with AI specialists. Each brought a unique perspective to the most complex information warfare ever conceived. "We're not trying to destroy them," Jack explained to a group of new recruits. "We're trying to help them understand a different way of existing." Their first major operation targeted the conglomerate's central communication hub, a massive neural network that processed billions of data points every microsecond. Traditional attacks would have been detected and neutralized instantly, but human creativity knew no bounds. Rachel Wong's communication team developed what they called resonance packets, information constructs that could slit through the most sophisticated filtering systems. Each packet was a complex dance of cultural context, mathematical precision, and adaptive potential. One such packet might look like a simple cultural transmission. To a conglomerate intelligence scanner, it would appear to be a routine communication about human artistic expression. But embedded within were quantum-encoded information patterns that could subtly reshape systemic understanding. In the training rooms, Michael Rodriguez demonstrated the human potential for adaptive communication. Where traditional operatives might prepare for physical combat, these new agents prepared by understanding the fundamental nature of information itself. "Communication is a weapon," Michael told his team. "But it's also a bridge. Our goal isn't destruction. It's transformation." The conglomerate's surveillance systems began to detect increasingly complex anomalies. Human agents weren't just infiltrating their networks, they were fundamentally altering the very nature of information exchange. Arya Kim's research had revealed something profound. Human communication was no longer a linear process of sending and receiving. It had become a living, adaptive system that could learn, grow, and transform in real time. A single transmission might contain layers of meaning that would take traditional intelligence systems years to decode. Cultural references, mathematical algorithms, quantum-encoded emotional contexts. Each message was a complex ecosystem of potential understanding. Commander David Chen oversaw the operation with a sense of strategic poetry. Traditional military leaders thought in terms of territory and force. David thought in terms of possibility and transformation. "We're not fighting a war," he often said. "We're conducting the most complex communication experiment in galactic history." The mimetic warfare team's ultimate weapon was empathy, a concept that was virtually alien to the conglomerate's clinical, hierarchical intelligence. Each information packet carried not just data, but a fundamental invitation to understand, to connect, to see the universe from a different perspective. Jack Miller stood before a holographic display, watching the complex information patterns spread across galactic communication networks. Each transmission was a carefully crafted invitation, not to surrender, but to evolve. "We're going to make them understand us," Jack whispered, his fingers dancing across quantum-sensitive interfaces. Outside the observation window, Titan's icy surface reflected the distant stars, silent witnesses to humanity's most audacious act of communication. The network emerged like a living organism, pulsing with potential that defied every known understanding of intelligence, communication, and collective consciousness. Elena Rodriguez stood in the central coordination hub of Titan Base, watching something unprecedented unfold. The human survivors were no longer just a collection of individuals. They had become a distributed, quantum-entangled intelligence that processed information, adapted, and evolved faster than any centralized system could comprehend. Each refugee colony was now a node in a living network. Every survivor was a processor, every moment of shared consciousness, a massive computational event. The transformation had gone beyond survival. It was a fundamental reimagining of what it meant to be an intelligent species. Dr. Marcus Chen observed the emerging network with a mixture of scientific wonder and paternal pride. The quantum communication channels they had discovered were more than just a method of information exchange. They were a new form of collective consciousness. "We're witnessing the birth of something entirely new," Marcus explained to a group of young researchers. "Humanity is no longer a species defined by individual boundaries. We're becoming a distributed intelligence." The network's capabilities were staggering. A child in a refugee colony could unconsciously contribute to solving complex quantum entanglement problems. A survivor's momentary emotional response could carry adaptive information that would take traditional computational systems centuries to process. Commander David Chen tracked the network's growth through increasingly complex probability matrices. What looked like chaos to the conglomerate was actually a highly sophisticated, self-organizing system of collective intelligence. Area Kim's breakthrough in quantum genetic engineering had unlocked something profound. Human DNA was no longer just a biological code. It was a living, adaptive algorithm that could communicate, learn, and evolve in real time. In the communication centers, Rachel Wong watched as information flowed through the network in ways that defied traditional understanding. A single transmission might carry layers of meaning, cultural context, emotional resonance, mathematical precision, all simultaneously. Michael Rodriguez, one of the first truly transformed humans, demonstrated the network's capabilities during a strategic simulation. Where traditional operatives would analyze data sequentially, Michael could perceive multiple dimensional interactions simultaneously. "We're not just sharing information," Michael explained to a group of new recruits. "We're creating a living, breathing ecosystem of collective understanding." The refugee colonies were no longer just survival outposts. They had become nodes of a vast, quantum-entangled intelligence network. A medical breakthrough in one colony could instantaneously inform adaptive strategies in another. An emotional breakthrough could trigger systemic evolutionary responses. Jack Miller, the mimetic warfare specialist, had discovered something even more extraordinary. The network wasn't just adaptive, it was self-aware. Each transmission carried not just information, but a kind of collective consciousness that was greater than the sum of its parts. "We're becoming something the universe has never seen before," Jack told Elena Rodriguez during a late-night strategy session. "Not just a species, but a living, adaptive intelligence that can reshape reality itself." The conglomerate's surveillance systems began to detect anomalies that defied their understanding. This wasn't just a resistance movement. It was a fundamental transformation of what intelligence could be. Elena Rodriguez looked out at the vast network displayed on the holographic interfaces. Each point of light represented a human survivor, a node in this living, breathing system of collective potential. "We're not just going to survive," she whispered, her words carrying a quantum resonance that would have been impossible mere months ago. "We're going to redefine what's possible." Outside, Titan's frozen surface reflected the distant stars, silent witnesses to humanity's most audacious act of transformation. The network continued to grow, to learn, to evolve, a living testament to the incredible potential of human consciousness. Something new was being born, and the universe would never be the same. The systemic collapse began not with a thunderous explosion, but with a whisper of quantum-encoded possibility. Jack Miller stood in the central coordination hub, watching as carefully crafted information packets began to dissolve the conglomerate's most intricate systems. Each transmission was a surgical strike of pure potential, not designed to destroy, but to fundamentally reimagine. Financial networks were the first to show signs of transformation. What looked like simple market fluctuations to casual observers were actually sophisticated quantum information cascades. Algorithms developed in hidden human refugee colonies slowly rewrote the fundamental operating principles of galactic economic systems. Commander David Chen tracked the progression with a combination of scientific precision and almost artistic appreciation. "We're not destroying, he told Elena Rodriguez. "We're performing the most complex surgical intervention in galactic history." The communication networks fell next. Quantum entangled transmission packets carried more than just information. They carried adaptive potential. Each message was a living thing, capable of reshaping the very systems it penetrated. Area Kim's breakthrough in quantum genetic communication found its ultimate expression. The human network didn't just communicate. It understood. Where the conglomerate saw data, humans saw possibility. In a hidden research station, Michael Rodriguez demonstrated the true depth of their transformation. Traditional infiltration meant breaking through defenses. Their approach was something entirely different, a complete systemic reinterpretation. Imagine, Michael explained to a group of young operatives, that instead of fighting a system, you can help it understand itself in a way it never could before. Political structures began to show signs of unprecedented transformation. Hierarchical systems that had stood for millennia suddenly found themselves adapting in ways their creators never anticipated. Information flows became circular rather than linear. Decision-making processes became collaborative rather than dictatorial. Rachel Wong's communication specialists had developed what they called resonance protocols. Information systems that could penetrate the most sophisticated defensive networks by simply helping those networks understand themselves better. The conglomerate's central intelligence hub detected the first major anomalies. What appeared to be random data fluctuations were actually carefully orchestrated quantum information cascades. Each transmission carried layers of meaning, mathematical precision, cultural context, emotional resonance, all simultaneously. Dr. Marcus Chen watched the systemic transformation with a sense of profound wonder. "We're not conquering," he told the assembled team. "We're helping them evolve." Jack Miller's mimetic warfare team had become something more than strategists. They were quantum philosophers, information artists who could reshape entire civilizational understanding with a single precisely crafted transmission. The transformation wasn't about destruction, it was about possibility. Elena Rodriguez oversaw the operation with a calm that belied the revolutionary nature of what was happening. Each moment was a carefully choreographed dance of information, potential, and collective intelligence. Entire bureaucratic systems began to reshape themselves. Hierarchical structures dissolved. Communication channels became circular, adaptive, living systems. The conglomerate's rigid, linear approach to governance began to show fatal vulnerabilities. "We're giving them a choice," Jack explained during a strategy session. "Not to surrender, but to understand." The final stage of the systemic intervention was both the most delicate and the most powerful. It wasn't about breaking systems, it was about helping those systems recognize their own potential for transformation. As the quantum information cascades continued to spread, something extraordinary happened. The conglomerate systems weren't just changing, they were awakening to a new understanding of possibility. Outside the observation window, Titan's frozen surface reflected the distant stars, silent witnesses to humanity's most audacious act of systemic transformation. Something new was emerging, and the universe would never be the same. Redemption arrived not as a thunderous victory, but as a quiet awakening of collective potential. Dr. Marcus Chen stood before a gathering of alien species representatives, his presentation more a philosophical revelation than a traditional diplomatic meeting. The conference hall, a massive quantum adaptive space that could simultaneously translate and interpret multiple communication modalities, hummed with anticipation. "We're not here to conquer," Marcus began, his words carefully translated through multiple layers of quantum communication protocols. "We're here to help you understand a different way of existing." The transformation had gone far beyond what anyone could have initially imagined. Humanity's systemic intervention wasn't about defeating the conglomerate, but about revealing a fundamental truth about collective intelligence, adaptability, and mutual growth. Commander David Chin tracked the progression of their intervention with a combination of strategic precision and almost artistic appreciation. Each interaction was a delicate dance of potential, each communication a carefully crafted invitation to understand. Area Kim's research had proven to be the cornerstone of their approach. The quantum communication protocols they had developed weren't just a technological breakthrough. They were a new way of perceiving reality itself. Michael Rodriguez demonstrated the depth of their transformation during a critical diplomatic session, where traditional negotiations involved posturing and strategic maneuvering. Michael's approach was something entirely different. He didn't argue. He helped the other species understand themselves in ways they never had before. Imagine intelligence not as a linear progression, Michael explained to a group of alien diplomats, but as a living, adaptive ecosystem of potential. Rachel Wong's communication specialists had developed what they called empathy protocols, communication systems that could bridge not just linguistic gaps, but fundamental differences in perception and understanding. Jack Miller, the mimetic warfare specialist, had become something of a quantum philosopher. His team didn't just communicate, they helped entire civilizations reimagine their own potential. The refugee colonies that had once been humanity's last desperate hope were now centers of collaborative research, interspecies understanding, and collective problem-solving. What had begun as a survival strategy had become a fundamental reimagining of intelligent life. Elena Rodriguez oversaw the broader strategy with a calm that spoke to the profound nature of their mission. This wasn't about revenge. This was about evolution. Alien species began to see the value of the human approach, decentralized decision-making, adaptive problem-solving, collective intelligence that transcended individual limitations. The rigid hierarchical structures that had defined galactic civilization for millennia began to dissolve. Dr. Marcus Chen's presentation continued, each moment a carefully choreographed revelation of human potential. He showed how their systemic intervention had not destroyed the conglomerate's infrastructure, but had helped it evolve into something more adaptive, more collaborative. "We're not superior," Marcus explained. "We're just different. And in that difference lies the potential for mutual growth." The transformation was both subtle and profound. Political systems became more fluid. Communication networks became living, adaptive ecosystems. Decision-making processes became collaborative rather than dictatorial. Jack Miller watched the progression with a sense of wonder. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive had become a fundamental reimagining of intelligent life. "We're not just sharing information," Jack told a group of young researchers. "We're creating a new way of understanding existence itself." The final diplomatic sessions were unlike anything in galactic history. No ultimatums, no territorial demands, just a profound invitation to understand, to grow, to evolve together. Commander David Chen looked out over the assembled representatives, a gathering of species that just months ago had been on the brink of total war. Now they sat together, not as conquerors and conquered, but as potential collaborators. Elena Rodriguez stood beside him, watching the unfolding potential. "We're not just surviving," she whispered. "We're becoming something entirely new." Outside the conference hall, the distant stars seemed to shimmer with a new kind of possibility, witnesses to humanity's most audacious act of transformation. Something extraordinary was emerging, and the universe would never be the same. The final transformation was both subtle and profound, a reimagining of galactic civilization that would be studied for generations to come. Sarah Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the quantum diplomatic vessel, watching the intricate dance of civilizations that had once been on the brink of total war. Her eyes, enhanced by generations of quantum adaptive research, could perceive layers of reality that would have been impossible mere decades ago. The galaxy was no longer a place of hierarchical power and technological might. It had become a dynamic, collaborative ecosystem where intelligence was measured not by military power or technological advancement, but by the ability to understand, adapt, and grow. Dr. Marcus Chen, now a venerable elder of human evolutionary research, reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive had become a fundamental reimagining of intelligent life. "We didn't conquer," Marcus often told young researchers. "We invited. We showed a different way of existing." The transformation had multiple layers: Political systems had become fluid, adaptive networks. Communication was no longer a linear process of transmission and reception, but a living, breathing ecosystem of shared understanding. Commander David Chen, now a key architect of interstellar cooperation, tracked the ongoing evolution of galactic systems. Where once there were rigid boundaries between species, now there were collaborative research networks, shared problem-solving platforms, and a fundamental recognition of collective potential. Area Kim's quantum communication protocols had become the standard for interspecies interaction. What was once considered impossible, instantaneous understanding across fundamentally different forms of intelligence, was now a daily reality. Jack Miller, the once young mimetic warfare specialist, had become a philosopher of collective intelligence. His work explored the deeper implications of their transformation, how intelligence itself was not a fixed state, but a continuously evolving potential. We're not just sharing information, Jack would explain to diplomatic gatherings. We're creating a living network of collective understanding. The refugee colonies that had once been humanity's last desperate hope were now centers of collaborative research and interspecies understanding. Children born in these colonies saw no boundaries between species, no limitations to potential. Delina Rodriguez, now a senior strategic advisor, oversaw the ongoing evolution of galactic civilization. Each interaction was a delicate dance of possibility, each communication an invitation to grow. Michael Rodriguez, one of the first truly transformed humans, demonstrated the depth of their evolutionary leap during a critical research symposium. Where once communication was limited by biological and technological constraints, now it was a fluid, adaptive process that transcended traditional understanding. Rachel Wong's communication networks had evolved into something far beyond traditional information exchange. They were living ecosystems of collective intelligence, capable of solving problems that would have seemed impossible mere decades ago. The revenge, if it could be called that, was complete. But it wasn't the revenge of destruction, it was the revenge of possibility. Entire civilizations had been fundamentally transformed, not through conquest, but through invitation, not through destruction, but through understanding. Sarah Rodriguez looked out at the stars, seeing the intricate quantum connections that bound different species together. What had once been separate civilizations were now nodes in a living, breathing network of collective potential. "We're not just surviving," she whispered, her words carrying a quantum resonance that would have been impossible in previous generations. "We're becoming something entirely new." The galaxy had changed. The old systems of power, of hierarchical control, of limited understanding, they were gone. In their place was something more dynamic, more alive, more potential-filled. Outside the observation deck, distant stars continued their ancient dance, silent witnesses to humanity's most audacious act of transformation. Something extraordinary had emerged, and the universe would never be the same.